started applying collage to my design projects on several instances of my undergraduate degree project back in 2019. In this collage, I did it as a representation of the collective imagery. Here, visualizing how might look a missing meal for the community. In this one, to show the spirit of a bakery that was part of the design proposal. And in this last one, also to communicate the environmental experience of the place where the bakery was meant to be. However, at that point, I was not aware of the collage as a part of my way of looking, but only as a representational tool. Here I found one of the first clues on how to get aware of my own looking. Because one of many design exercises we made at the CPT in ASU, I got in touch with speculative design. So, understanding that speculation comes from the Latin speculat, which means observe from a vantage point, and that this vantage gives the observer, the looker, the power of seeing beyond what others can see. I designed this first prototype to find out what secrets could reveal my fellows at the CPT in several pictures, according to each one's look, to each one's capability of looking what others couldn't. However, I missed the point of a prototype because I asked them to look at those pictures and find the secrets in them. With that instruction, the most of them understood they were supposed to find something I had hidden in the pictures. But after analyzing the results of that first prototype, I understood that the capability of seeing something beyond what images literally show was more complex than the idea of finding secrets. In order to get aware of the way each one looks, I had to develop some more prototypes around the idea of unveiling. In one of several design sprints we made at the CPT, we were asked to find a phenomenon hidden in a place chosen by ourselves, which was not paying attention to, and what made us wonder what was really happening there, to write a speculative story about it. For this exercise, I went to Hayden Mill and wrote stories about what people passing by will think of the mill building based on my prejudice about them. After that, I took those stories to create collages, even though these were not meant to represent literally the stories, neither to communicate them. At the time, I understood speculation as I mentioned before, to imagine from the self-experience the reasons or causes behind some phenomenon. Later, when I worked on speculation as a concept, I realized that this was the colloquial way of understanding it. On the other hand, beside the conceptual approach to speculation I use for my stories, I began to identify a conflict with my collages precisely because they didn't communicate nor represent the stories, as in design we usually use representational tools. I couldn't find the reason why I was making them, so I started to feel that the way I do collage was not useful for the project. The only thing I could tell about it was that my collages had a different nature, but it was a nature I couldn't name yet. This made me aware of the way in which I sometimes look, but it will not necessarily work as an instrument to detonate that kind of awareness in others, in order to get them into a process of recognition of their own way of looking. With this prototype, I discovered that my interest was to design instruments that enhance the recognition of people's way of looking. The first part of this instrument is called Specollarium. Thinking on how to reveal possible manifestations of the look in order to take a material expression of their look as their starting point, I started by asking the participants to find the pictures they had taken before the quarantine of the Hayden Mill, or, if don't, to pick from their files a picture of a building they believed was part of Tempe's heritage or one from the city they were at. In a second stage, I tried to make the participants to look at their own pictures again, this time based on a series of questions I designed in order to find what could detonate a process of awareness in their own way of looking. For this, I began asking them for descriptions of the images component. After that, asking about decisions on what's included in the frame and what not. And finally, some questions of the intentions and motivations they had at the time they took the picture. With this material as some kind of conversation, I tried to make those ways of looking talk to mind through collage. As a result, I developed one collage for each picture the participants review, which I sent them back once more asking them if they still identify the way of looking in it or if at some point it was just mine. The Specollarium results help me to recognize that I cannot see how others look, but what I can do is to get aware of my own way of looking through theirs. Heritage was a perfect excuse to see manifestations of others' way of looking, because it is a concept currently undervalued by the idea of progress and development, an idea that, in the aim of wanting to change and improve everything that seems not modern, defines a certain way of looking. We are continually losing sight of buildings, people, situations, not human entities that are more important to understand our historical context but invisible to those eyes not aware of their own way of look. In that sense, we must recognize our own way of looking in order to take charge of it and being able to see what must and needs to be seen. These collages are part of the creative expression in the collage technique. The characters began as a part of a personal exploration in the costume or fashion representation, being made not with scissors but with vectors. Each one of the characters that appear here refer to each chapter of the Looker book. As the description of the picture doesn't account for the recognition of the look by itself, I designed a second instrument. Something that I have called the unveiling manual, in which, based on the same idea of unveiling, the narrative and prejudice is what allows recognition and awareness, since when constructing narration, the look is manifested, something that is not easy to happen when describing. For this instrument, I took two images of two buildings that are part of the architectural heritage of both Tempe and Bogota as a working material and basis for the construction of narratives and construction of the look. With questions and instructions, I guide people to make collage for every building and show the construction in one hand of the imagery and in the other hand the narrative around each building and the idea of heritage. And this is how I got to this unveiling manual. Through several prototypes that gave me an approach to what we as designers understand as awareness of our look. These prototypes allow me to understand collage, although it is not a representational tool that we as designers are used to, as a technique that helps me to recognize myself and recognize others through the look.